Join me as I dive into the emotional moment when Jenna Bush Hager opens up about Savannah Guthrie's missing mom. Can I hold back my own tears while we unpack this heartfelt conversation? There are moments on live television that feel different from everything else. Moments where the studio lights fade into the background, where the scripts and schedules no longer matter, and where something deeply human breaks through the surface. These are the moments viewers don't forget, because they aren't produced. They're felt. One such moment unfolded quietly between Jenna Bush Hager and Savannah Guthrie. To the audience, they are co-hosts of the Today Show, polished, poised, professional. But to each other, they are far more than that. Over the years, their relationship has grown into something rooted in trust, loyalty, and an unspoken understanding that comes from showing up for one another day after day, year after year. Their bond didn't form overnight. It was built in early mornings, behind the scenes, during off-camera conversations that never made it to air. It grew through shared laughter, difficult interviews, personal milestones, and moments of private grief. And in time, that bond became something unmistakable. Friendship. Real friendship doesn't announce itself. It reveals itself in the way one person leans in when the other speaks, in the pauses they allow each other, in the emotions they don't try to hide. Savannah Guthrie has long been open about how loss and absence have shaped her life. Grief is not always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, persistent, and deeply personal. It doesn't resolve itself neatly, and it doesn't disappear just because time passes. It becomes part of the landscape of a person's heart, living with unanswered questions, with longing, with the ache of what might have been. It changes the way you move through the world. It teaches resilience, but it also leaves scars. And Savannah carries that complexity with grace. Every day, she shows up with strength, with warmth, with humor. She does her job with professionalism and care. But strength doesn't mean the pain isn't there. It simply means she has learned how to live alongside it. Jenna sees that. As someone who knows Savannah not just as a colleague, but as a friend, Jenna understands the weight Savannah carries. She understands that grief doesn't follow a schedule, that it doesn't announce when it will surface, and that sometimes, the most compassionate response is not to speak but to feel. In one particularly emotional exchange, Jenna allows herself to be fully present in Savannah's pain. There is no performance in her response, no polished commentary, just raw emotion. Her voice softens, her eyes fill, and suddenly, the moment becomes something sacred. It's in that instant that viewers see the depth of their bond. Jenna isn't reacting out of obligation or sympathy, she's reacting out of love. Her tears aren't for the camera, they're for her friend. That vulnerability is powerful. It reminds us that empathy is not passive, it's active. It requires courage to let someone else's pain affect you, to sit with it, to acknowledge it without trying to make it smaller or easier than it is. Jenna doesn't rush Savannah through her feelings. She doesn't try to frame the pain with platitudes or tidy conclusions. Instead, she does something far more meaningful. She shares the emotional space with her. That's what true support looks like. Not advice, not solutions, just presence. Their exchange is a quiet reminder that friendship isn't about fixing what's broken. It's about staying when things feel heavy. It's about creating a safe place where vulnerability is allowed, where strength and softness can coexist. For Savannah, having someone like Jenna beside her makes a difference. Someone who listens without judgment. Someone who understands that grief doesn't need to be explained. Someone who allows emotions to exist without demanding resolution. And for Jenna, loving a friend means allowing herself to feel deeply even when it hurts. This moment resonates because it reflects something universal. Everyone carries something unseen. Everyone has a story shaped by loss, longing, or love that didn't unfold the way they hoped. And everyone, at some point, needs someone who will sit beside them and say without words, you don't have to carry this alone. Watching Jenna and Savannah reminds us of the quiet power of human connection, of what happens when compassion meets authenticity, of how emotional honesty can break through even the most controlled environments. In a world that often rushes past pain, their moment stands still. It tells us that it's okay to feel, that it's okay to be moved by someone else's story, that empathy is not weakness, it's strength. Their friendship is not loud or performative. It doesn't need dramatic declarations. It lives in small gestures, in shared glances, in moments like this when words fall short and emotion speaks instead. And perhaps that's why this exchange stays with us, because it reminds us of what really matters. Not ratings, not perfection, not polished appearances, but connection. If this moment touched you, you're not alone. These are the stories that linger, the ones that remind us that behind every public figure is a human heart, and that sometimes, The most meaningful thing we can offer one another is simply to be there. Thank you for taking this moment with us. If this story resonated with you, feel free to share your thoughts below. And if you're drawn to stories that highlight compassion, resilience, and real human connection, be sure to explore more from this channel. Thanks for the watching and subscribe.